Madness. I decided to challenge myself to something today. So yesterday I did a video on Patrick Roy. How long did it take for people to come in and say Marty Britter, Marty Britter, Marty Britter? I was like, are you serious? Oh my god, I do a video on Patrick Roy and it turns into Marty was the best. Don't forget Marty was the best. And it's so weird to me because we have these debates in hockey. So I thought to myself today, I thought, all right, I'm going to go through these magnets. I'm just gonna put every team on the board in the order they come out. So there's some teams that aren't on the board, and debate. Just write a name or something to have a debate about. Because Marty's the best. Anyways, and I find it hilarious because like it'd be a weird discussion to be having. Just I think Patrick Waugh was a fine goaltender. I think he was an amazing goaltender myself. Did you know he had 4 Stanley Cup rings? You don't say. He actually won 3 Conn Smythes as the MVP of the runs that his team went on. That's pretty amazing. Montreal was kind of a down team when he was there at certain points, and yet he still got them to a higher level. Yes, he did. Marty's the best! Where did that come from? What? Where? Marty Brenner's the greatest goaltender of all time! What? Seriously, just stop. Okay. It's so weird, because there is no civil discourse. I'm going to prove it. Am I at the bottom? No, I'm not at the bottom. We haven't got the full madness on the board. There we go. There we go. There's the full madness. Maybe I'll try it with just natural light. How's that gonna work? That way it just disappear. All right, I'll do it with one light. It's mood lighting. There you go. Hasek, how good is he? Huh? Greatest? Greatest? It depends on who you ask, right? Hasek came to the league late. So for me, I am perfectly fine with people saying he was the greatest of all time if he'd played his entire career in North America. It is highly likely we would still disagree, but there'd be more people who see him as the greatest of all time. Luongo, did he play behind great teams or crappy teams? Because I've seen both. I will say this. Yes, he has played behind both. He has played behind teams that weren't any good. He has played behind teams that were great. And in the end, his numbers come out as pretty darn solid. But I don't put him in the same category as Hasek or Roy or Berter. Lindros, was he good? No? He's in the Hall of Fame. Does he belong there? Huh? Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Vegas, are they viable? The answer is yes, but there are plenty of people that will say no. Long term, and I mean long term viable. Tampa, Stamkos. The Stamkos debate is going to become a thundering debate if Tampa doesn't win the Stanley Cup this year. Is that fair to Steven Stamkos? No. If Stamkos goes into a Game 7 and comes out of it with anything less than a goal, so if he gets an assist, maybe 2 assists, but he doesn't get a goal, we're going to be talking this summer about how maybe Stamkos is the problem in Tampa. Maybe that's the reason they can't get over the top. Carolina, the Surge. Do you love it? The right answer is yes. Jonathan Quick, just a guy who got lucky in a few Stanley Cup playoffs. Is he a great goaltender? He's never won a Vezina, so does that have any influence over how he is seen in the all-time picture? Minnesota Wild, Zach Parise, good signing, bad signing? I know you guys are all going to say contract was too long, but that was the demand at the time. Toronto, Austin Matthews, how good is he? Right, exactly. Montreal was only good because of the French-Canadian draft rule that they could just go in and he's French-Canadian, we get first crack at him. Did that make them a great dynasty? The right answer is no, but there's still debate about it. And then you can also debate, was the Montreal dynasty just because it was a original 6 league? Yeah, if you don't include all those Stanley Cups they won after the expansion, sure. Arizona, Shane Doan, Hall of Famer? There's going to be people who believe yes. There are going to be people who believe no. There are going to be people who will debate his standing in the NHL. St. Louis, Adam Oates. Was he right when he said what he said about the organization? Should he have been traded out of the organization? If they had kept Adam Oates, would they have won a Stanley Cup with Oates and Hull as a combination? We'll never know. Bobby Orr shouldn't be a debate topic, but it kind of is, and I'll say why. Bobby Orr, likely the greatest defenseman of all time. He transformed the game, but there will be some who say Lidstrom, some who say Bork. You're going to hear Paul Coffey's name here and there as well, just for the amount of points that were put up. Arizona, are they viable? That's a debate, and we haven't reached consensus on that. Buffalo, Jack Eichel, how good is he? Pittsburgh, Matt Murray. Is he a start? Is he going to win another Stanley Cup? Did he overachieve as a rookie twice? Dallas, Mike Modano. I could have put Skate in the crease too. Modano's place in the all-time all-time standings of players. Is he the greatest American player who's ever played? Kings, Marcel Dion, one of the greatest forgotten superstars in the history of the game. I would say probably. Other people would say, who? Marty Brodeur, there it is. I had to get Marty in there because why not? And his standing and what his win totals signify and how many of those wins were aided by the defense in front of him. And again, this is the debate that will rage forever because we all have different opinions on it. Connor McDavid, greatest player in the game right now. Right. That's always up for debate. Is Connor McDavid the greatest player in the game right now? Or is he not? Paul Kariya, if the Ducks never trade him, if he never leaves Anaheim, and if not for injury, how great could he have been? And, it's not as much a debate topic, but you could also debate how great was Paul Kariya. Winnipeg, right now it's Patrick Laine. Patrick Laine is the big debate right now with Winnipeg, and this summer it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with his contract. Gordie Howe, the greatest of all time? Somebody somewhere saw Howe on the board and said, well, how could you debate Gordie Howe? There's the debate. Greatest of all time. Nashville, viable. This was a conversation at one point. Not that long ago. About a decade ago, which for me is not a long time. I know for you young whippersnappers out there, that's a long time. But there was a lot of debate about whether or not Nashville was viable. And there will be people who, when Nashville is falling down the standings, are going to say, oh, let's see if they show up now. Now they're not a good team anymore. Mario Lemieux, greatest of all time? Greatest of all time. Yes? What about Gretzky? Is Gretzky the reason why we have 3 teams in California? Gretzky? Gretzky the greatest of all time? Patrick Roy, greatest of all time. Was Montreal right to trade him when they traded him? And if you're going to say, well, there's consensus on that. Not at the time there wasn't. Holy, if we'd had a YouTube channel then when Patrick Roy got traded, I guarantee you, probably I would say about 50% of Montreal fans would have agreed with the trade at the time. He was seen as being on his way down. Osgood, Hall of Fame? Most will say no. Some, including myself, will say, yeah, sure. Absolutely. He has all of the prerequisites to be in the Hall of Fame. Jets history. Should they have the history of the Arizona Coyotes when they were the Winnipeg Jets? Should they retain the history of the Atlanta Thrashers? This is a debate. Carolina Whalers. Were they better off when they were the Hartford Whalers? For name, yeah. Better jersey? Sure. Should they go back to Hartford? Hell no. They need an arena. It can't be in a mall. They were in a mall. They were drawing about 11,000 people a game. Hartford wasn't drawing either at the end of their time. They're not the Quebec Nordiques. They weren't drawing at the end of their time. Islanders, viable. You know what's funny? They've got this new arena coming in now, and it's going to be great, right? And everybody's happy. The Islanders' attendance has been an issue for decades. It has been an issue for decades. This is not just something that started overnight, and they can't just say, well, they've had some bad seasons, so it was hard for the fans to really get into it. The Islanders were drawing flies for a long time. New Jersey, I could have put New Jersey on that list too, but I'm putting the Trap. Was the Trap the worst thing to happen to hockey, or was it a sign that Jacques Lemaire was smarter than everybody else? That's the debate. Bobby Clarke, great Stanley Cup winning player, great GM, bad GM, good player, great player. There's a lot of debate around Bobby Clarke because Bobby Clarke, a very polarizing figure. To me, famously, he questioned Lindros's heart when Lindros was dealing with concussion symptoms. And if a GM did that now, oh boy, that would just be the end of that. Crosby, Ovechkin, next to each other. I drew them right after one another, Capitals and Penguins. I'm like, all right, Crosby and Ovechkin, there's your debate. Ovechkin's place in the game. Crosby's place in the game. Best goal scorer ever? Best player ever? Some will tell you that Crosby is. Some will say, no, it's Gretzky. Some will say it's Bobby Hull, Bobby Orr. Maybe it's Gordie Howe. Could it be Mario Lemieux? I love these debates. Mike Keenan with the Rangers. See, here's the thing. Keenan gets the Rangers to the Stanley Cup and then walks away and kind of throws a match over his shoulder as he leaves. He walked away that summer. So the debate becomes, was Keenan the best thing to happen to the Rangers, or did he actually set them back long term? Chris Pronger with the Oilers. Oiler fans know what I'm talking about. Because Pronger leaving to go to these guys, that was major news at the time, and of course everybody threw his wife under the bus. The Ducks, mighty. Why do I have mighty on there? Because when the Mighty Ducks joined the NHL in the mid '90s, many hockey purists and this kid right here, I was a kid at the time, so I can say that. Well, I was an adult, but barely. I'm still an adult, but barely, really. The Mighty Ducks, when they came in, it was seen as a joke. There were a lot of people who said Mighty Ducks of Anaheim. What a joke. That's not an NHL team. It's a bloody movie. How can you name a team after a stupid Disney movie? This is awful. Now, here we are years later. People want the Ducks logo to go back to what it was. And I think if they went back to the Anaheim Mighty Ducks, I don't think there'd be a lot of arguing about it. But at the time, that was a huge debate. Whether or not Mighty Ducks was the dumbest name in history or just the worst. Skates in the crease. So yeah, I got it in down here. But down out there. Skate in the crease down here. Phil Kessel for Toronto. Kessel, there was a lot of debate about Phil Kessel. And there were Leaf fans who believed at the time that Kessel was a perennial 40-goal scorer, likely to score 50, one of the best goal scorers in the league. And then there were Leaf fans that thought he was fat and lazy. And those two sometimes coexisted quite well and sometimes fought with each other quite badly. Islanders, I cheated on this one. Milbury and Garth Snow. Mike Milbury, Garth Snow. There needs to be a Mike Milbury video on his career. There will be a Mike Milbury video on his career. I want to do one on his playing career, his general managing career, and just get into that. And I'm trying to figure out exactly what the best day would be to do that. But Garth Snow needs to be in there too because, of course, Garth Snow gets thrown out because they say he was a crappy GM. But they've both kind of got that reputation as crappy GMs. I think it was more deserving for one than the other being Garth Snow. Eugene Melnyk, he's become this hugely polarizing figure. If Ottawa ends up losing their team at some point in the future, I really think Melnyk's going to be the one that ends up making it happen. Both by driving fans away and deciding he gets to move. Florida, viable? You sure? And this is a question that people have right now. And it's interesting how viable shows up on the board a lot. How there are organizations who are either now or have been before argued about whether or not they should stick around. When you look at the current success of the Islanders and Predators, the Predators, it loans itself to the idea that the NHL's right in doing its best to prop up the teams that are maybe losing money, not drawing a lot of fans, because eventually they can become a success story. Corey Crawford. Is Corey Crawford, if he retired this summer, where does he stand? Was he a great goaltender or was he a good goaltender for a great team? Does he get consideration for the Hall of Fame or does he fall into the same category as Chris Osgood later on? And that is not an insult to Corey Crawford. I'm telling you, Osgood got better as he got older. And loyalty. So the Chicago Blackhawks right now are the biggest draw in the National Hockey League. They routinely have the number one attendance, and Chicago fans will tell you this a lot. But those of us who are old enough remember when Chicago couldn't draw flies. And people will say, well, that was Bill Wirtz. Well, no, it was a badly run organization all around. But the point is, there are some organizations that can draw really, really well, even when the team is horrible. And I'm looking at Edmonton. I'm looking at Toronto, Montreal. I'm not looking at Vancouver because I know that's not the case with Vancouver. I believe Boston's attendance has been pretty good even when the team's been pretty bad. But Chicago, there's some question. When Chicago is, and I'm not talking about during this era, but let's say that 5 years from now, Kane and Taves, that era's done, and there's kind of this malaise, could we see a huge drop in the fan numbers for Chicago? And that's a debate. So there you go. We will never reach consensus in the NHL, and I love fans for it. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to put up as many of them as I can on the board and just see how many different topics I can come up with. So here's my discussion for you guys. Throw in the comment section below debates that you don't think will ever be settled that are not on the board. In the realm of hockey. Only hockey. Only hockey. All right? Okay. That being said, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. If you're browsing your way through, you just tap it upon this video. And this is why I love the game. This is why I love sports. If I make an argument that Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback of all time, there will be people who say Joe Montana was the greatest quarterback of all time. If I say Dan Marino was the greatest that never won a Super Bowl, somebody will mention somebody else who didn't win a Super Bowl. Philip Rivers, for instance. But anyways, just throwing that out there. Let me know your thoughts as always, and I'll talk to you again soon.